Welcome back to the second game of our New Zealand Secondary Schools Ultimate Championships. Fresh off Lytton High School's girls team taking on Birkenhead in a 9-3 victory for Lytton. We now have Hutt Valley High School in the open division versus Shirley Boys High School. Now, the New Zealand Secondary Schools Ultimate Championships have been running since 2014. Shirley Boys High School from the South Island, it's the first time that they've sent a team from the South Island to the North Island in Taupo to compete. So they do have their own separate secondary school championships for the South Island, but it's lovely to see those teams being brought up to our location here. So we are in beautiful Crown Park in Taupo, and we're just doing some last-minute administration before the game. Hutt Valley are going to be playing in white, Shirley Boys High School in blue. So again, matches are 50 minutes long or until the first team scores 15 points. A half-time will occur when the first team scores 8 points. At full time, if there is no result, a new points cap is created. We will talk you through that if such an eventuality arises. And the teams themselves take it upon themselves to learn the rules of the sport and make any calls. It's a self-officiated sport. So one of the benefits of playing Ultimate, particularly coming in from other sports, from being sort of cross-sport athletes, from playing Ultimate, it develops those emotive and communication skills, which are quite necessary. And it's really, really wonderful to see these teams coming together for a secondary schools nationals event and putting that spirit of play on display for us. So it looks like Shirley Boys will start off on defense. On the left-hand side of your screen, you're seeing Shirley Boys high players now. We're playing 5-a-side on a slightly smaller field for this particular tournament. The conditions are very, very still. There's not a lot of wind, so we're not going to see too much environmental interference. The turns that are generated are going to be generated by defensive pressure, regardless of whether that comes from big plays from some of these lads or the psychological advantage forcing small errors in tight throwing windows. Now, Hutt Valley High School have put together a team and sent along to some of our senior regional tournaments. Wellington Wind-Up, which happened only a month or so ago. Hutt Valley High School had a contingent go down there. So we know that they're capable of competing at a high level, and we'll see whether or not they're able to represent that same thing today, or whether they will fall before the might of Shirley Boys High School in their first venture to the Northern Island of New Zealand. Moment of anticipation as the teams take to the field. Some last-minute strategic communications. Hutt Valley High School give the signal for readiness. Number 11, McFarlane to pull. A great pull. Fantastic position. Fielded by Kanasuta. Targeting that near sideline for Taylor. Back to Kanasuta. To Vessels. A great block from Shirley Boys High School, just putting a stop to that Hutt Valley momentum. Again, McFarlane with a great pull and then following that up with a defensive layout block. Utteridge centre field targeting the far sideline, finds McFarlane again. Utteridge making great position for a nice reset. A laser beam straight through the middle. Hutt Valley not allowing that completion. A layout block of their own. Kanasuta to handle in the far sideline corner. A little bit of miscommunication. Great effort from Hutt Valley to try and maintain possession, but it's a fantastic, fantastic place for Shirley boys to take the disc. Utteridge just walking the disc out of the end zone. An isolation cut. The disc goes a little high, despite a great attempt from Moore to pick that one up. Hutt Valley with a long field ahead of them. We're seeing cuts develop into that deep space, just ahead of the disc being checked in. A great laser beam, kept alive by Vessels, off his own hands, manages to chase it down for a second bid. Great cuts, forced to reset. Huge pressure from the Shirley boys defense, looking to turn that, convert that defensive turn into a great deep option. It doesn't come. We see McFarlane with the disc. Max Utteridge. A bomb. It goes long. And clear separation. Lawson with it, looking to close. A high shot goes up. Brought down as the first score of the game. Bradley Moore pulling that one in for Shirley Boys High School, going up by 1 over Hutt Valley. We'll see that again. Lawson with the disc as his mark gets into position. It's just a fraction too late. A beautiful score from our Southern Stunners. So a wonderful break from Shirley boys. Coming out on defense on the first point, managing to generate a turnover and converting that to a score. They'll come out on defense once more. Hutt Valley High School aware of the competitive nature of this team now. A great opening play by Shirley boys. Hutt Valley needing to answer with another of their own. We are 5 minutes into this, the second game of our covered matches of the New Zealand Secondary Schools Ultimate Championships. Vale to pull. A big left hand. Huge high pull. Looks to have gone out of bounds. Leishman's giving the signal to Brick, so the disc will be brought in center field, about 15 or so meters in front of the end zone. Great cuts from the Hutt Valley High team. Working the near sideline. A great grab by Nagarajan. Nice forehand, curving out of field, coming back in over the top of the Shirley boys defender. Nagarajan, a diving grab for a beautiful score, putting their own point on the board, saying to the Shirley boys, we will not let you have a victory that easily. A very competitive game so far. 1 point apiece. Hutt Valley to come out on defense now. So we've seen one break from the Shirley boys as their defense turned the disc and generated a point from that. And then we've seen one offensive hold from Hutt Valley High School, who received the pull and were able to convert that disc to a score. Aiden Brown with the disc, giving the signal for readiness. A run up, and there's the pull. A nice high disc, a lot of edge, but it's inbounds, giving Hutt Valley great opportunity to set up their own defense. A massive backhand huck up the far sideline, climbs the ladder, gets up. What a beautiful play. Some amazing height from Hutt Valley on display here, generating the turn despite the best efforts of Shirley boys to keep it alive. A little bit of a miscommunication puts Shirley boys in a great position as they are right on the edge of their own attacking end zone. Great isolation cut from Douglas, managing to find a tiny hole in the Hutt Valley defense, threading the needle. And we'll see that again as Vale picks up the disc. A quick chop step to get that separation. Great jab, great athleticism and agility, as Douglas puts a second score on the board for the Shirley boys. Some fantastic athleticism and skill on display. We see the signal from Hutt Valley. Pull with a little bit much edge, fading out the far sideline. So Hutt Valley opting not to take it from the brick mark, as we've seen previously, but instead taking the disc from where it crossed the boundaries of the playing field. And so it was a close margin to work, but a great hand block from Shirley boys, followed by a monster huck just outside of the zone by Cooper, swinging the disc across to the far sideline. Lawson and Cooper trying to work the disc, creating an option for them. Joined by Utteridge. A nice layout bid. A lot of pressure from that defense, forcing a floating disc, trying to throw it into space, trusting the athleticism of your other players to pick that up. Huge, impressive effort, not quite enough to close out the score for them. Hutt Valley now with an opportunity to bring it back to a tied game. Now we're operating out of that same sort of vertical stack. We're seeing two players in the handler space now. Vessels as a reset option in case that disc fielded by Leishman isn't able to work upfield. Threads one straight through. Great flow base, a long throw out to space. Huge chase from Hutt Valley, from Vessels. Not quite enough. Sometimes there is a need for patience, maybe holstering those throws just a little bit longer. Great movement by Utteridge. Shifting that mark, trying to create an opening for himself. Gets a great bid from Kanasuta, but the disc finds ground anyway. Kanasuta picking up. Looking to initiate the offense from Hutt Valley. And it looks like the disc was stripped accidentally, but Kanasuta will retain possession. The disc is checked back in. Big Fake looking to initiate a handler reset from Leishman, who finds Kanasuta again. High shot, going to bend in just enough. But it goes long, goes beyond the end zone. McFarlane in that handler space, going to initiate the offense for the Shirley boys. Great targeting the far side. Lawson sends an absolute cannon up. Down to Cooper. And a comfortable finish. McFarlane finds the defense out of position. And Cooper sends a comfortable, casual forehand to score that point, taking us to 3-1. Shirley boys up by 2 over the Hutt Valley. Some great ultimate on display from these young gentlemen in our open division of the New Zealand Secondary Schools Ultimate Championships. There really is no sport like it in the world. Valet to pull as Shirley boys come back down on defense. A lot of high angle. If it touches ground, it's going to roll, but it's fielded instead by the Hutt Valley, who look to come down in a bit of a zone defense, looking to target that space rather than the players themselves. Kanasuta keeps that one alive. Working with Taylor, trying to find some movement around the disc. Great pressure from the Shirley boys, shifting that zone. So the purpose of this zone defense from Shirley boys is to force lower percentage options. And it works perfectly for them, as that high shot forehand allows the defense to get underneath it and retain possession. Valet off the pull now with possession in center field. Looks to offset to Utteridge. Douglas with the disc, marked by Kanasuta on the near sideline. Works across the mark. Valet again. Great disc movement by Shirley boys. Despite tight person defense that we're seeing from Hutt Valley. Cuts are developing, but not in the end zone. Shirley boys not yet able to close this point out. Charlie Utteridge having to look back, finding Valet. As the disc tips off the hands of Douglas, gets a little bit of height. Hutt Valley not allowing any of the Shirley boys players to get a second bite on it. Vessels with a low flat blade. Chased down. Valet again on the near sideline, looking to recenter the disc instead. Finds Walker. Working up the field towards Charlie Utteridge. A great deep cut developing, but there's too much pressure on the defense to fire that shot up. A great throw, a little low. finds space, but there's no player occupying that space. So Hutt Valley with an opportunity now. Hayden Brown. Throws one over. Goes up, puts the roof down, closes out. Arama King. A great leap. And Arama King closing out that point. Great score from Hutt Valley as we go 3-2. A fantastic highlight reel performance on display here from both sides. Some great athletic bids, great shot selection. Shirley boys mixing things up on defense, setting up a zone, trying to confuse the Hutt Valley momentum, able to generate turns from that. Hutt Valley so far sticking to a person defense, but capitalizing on that, generating turns of their own, using some of those big, powerful throws that we've seen to secure points and keep themselves in this game. Gray, Leishman, Taylor, Harry. That's Harry Kubra, number 12. Great pull from Hutt Valley. Wind starting to pick up a little bit, working from the far side of the playing field as you see on your screen towards the near side. Catches the underside of that disc and curves it just out of bounds. So it looks like the brick has been signaled. So again, some 15 meters in front of the defending end zone. Shirley boys will look to initiate their offense. Max Utteridge, number 8, against a lot of defensive pressure, puts the spin cycle, sends up a huck. Hutt Valley boys again getting big. Leishman going up, not letting that one be a simple score for the Shirley boys. A great bid trying to keep that alive. A little bit of wobble on that disc as it left. Great efforts from the Hutt Valley boys playing that defense again. Utteridge handling center field. Looking to move the mark. Manages to find a very, very open Cooper. Great disc movement, just working around the Hutt Valley zone. A nice, beautiful cut, creating separation. Cooper just making those 2-3 initial steps as explosive as possible, getting out in front of his defender and giving in a clean throwing channel. So we'll see that again as Utteridge has an opening, sends one straight through to Cooper for a great score. Shirley boys again up by 2, 4-2 ahead of the Hutt Valley High School Opens team. It really is hard to beat Ultimate on any day, on a good day, and as clinical as these young gentlemen are showing us, there really is nothing else in the world that I would rather be doing. Shirley boys coming out on defense now. Now we've seen them throw down a zone defense before, looking to target space, force low percentage options, and capitalize, trusting their athleticism to get them there. We are seeing that same zone again. Great fakes from Hutt Valley trying to move that defense, creating a window that they find Kanasuta center field, close to the halfway mark. Resets, finds Leishman on the near sideline, sorry. That zone back in position. Kanasuta back to Leishman. So we're seeing very, very clinical zone offense here. considering that the players themselves, particularly those two in the front, are doing a lot of the chasing around the disc, you can either go over the top, Nagarajan getting involved on the near sideline, Leishman back to Kanasuta. Same again, just sending it backwards and forwards, hoping to tire out the front of that zone to create an opening by getting the defense out of position. Leishman with the disc, back to Kanasuta. Left-handed forehand, straight through, a great bid by Shirley boys. Vessels in the red zone. Back to Kanasuta. And Leishman. Nagarajan opening up a great cut on that far sideline. But instead the reset happens. Leishman's there, threading through. Whitehead back to Leishman. The patience on display here is phenomenal. It is a terrible habit to get a bit of end zone fever, but Hutt Valley boys playing very calm, very patiently. Vessels right on the edge of glory, looks to reset for Leishman instead of forcing anything that might generate a turn. Threading through to an open player as Whitehead pulls that one in for a great score. Shirley boys put another one on the board. 5-2 against Hutt Valley High School as we approach the 23-minute mark of the game. So great score from Whitehead for Hutt Valley as they go up 3-4, narrowing the margin against Shirley boys. A very close, very competitive game on display here. It could be anyone's match. We've seen trades, we've seen defensive breaks, we've seen offensive holds, we've seen some fantastic jumps, great crisp throwing, varied defense, huge amounts of pressure from both teams, pushing each other to the highest possible level. So it seems as though a timeout has been called after the conclusion of that last point. Shirley boys taking the opportunity to just go over some strategy. Seeing a bit of on-field leadership now. Hutt Valley first to break. Perhaps on the back of the strength of that score, they didn't have as much to talk about. More a circle of congratulations, just recognizing the amount of effort that everyone is putting in, the skill level that they're all bringing, and how, when things come together like that, you can have a beautiful score like the one that Whitehead just pulled in. We're seeing a lot of energy from the Shirley boys, maybe looking to hype themselves up a little bit, recognizing that the game is maybe a lot closer than they were anticipating, and that they therefore have to really dig deep, grind down, and try and find a bit more energy, a bit more speed, a bit more precision in some of those throws to see if they're able to widen the margin that they've enjoyed so far. Brown to pull for Hutt Valley. Giving the signal, Brown sending a large pull. A lot of edge, fielded successfully by Shirley boys. Douglas and Cooper, or Utteridge and Cooper working together. Just playing keep away, working up the field. Douglas getting great separation to receive the disc. Working the far sideline. Utteridge again to Cooper, hoping to close off. The defensive pressure, shutting off his options. Goes over the top. And puts in a very, very high backhand. Perhaps a riskier option than is necessary, but trusting his teammates to go and close that one out. Managing to get hand to disc before it touches the ground. We'll see that again. The awareness, the commitment, the willingness to put body on the line for your friends is what this sport is all about. Shirley boys go up by 2, 5-3 over Hutt Valley. Those are the great plays that fans of Ultimate have come to love. Just when getting the disc is the only priority, the only thing that matters, you really do tend to see some incredible things. But moreover than that, it's the sense of team spirit that comes to the fore when you see how willing people are to congratulate their teammates for making those plays. It isn't expected, but it really does display a huge amount of trust. Vale with a great pull. Brown with the disc now, trying to work around that Shirley boy zone again. And that zone defense generating a quick turn. Cooper takes it despite the best efforts from Hutt Valley defense. Vale now, center field, 5 meters out from the zone. Finds McFarlane. Far sideline, threading it through straight to the hands, the waiting hands of Charlie Utteridge. Great score, good clinical ultimate. A point like that is the kind of thing that you would see in a textbook. Great zone defense, just baiting throws, working together as a team, not placing the pressure on any individual to do any work by controlling the matchups that you might see in a person defense. That zone defense, 7 people, or in this case 5 people, however many people are on the field, all working together, all with a common goal, all on the same page. And as long as everyone is on the same page, there is no wrong decision. And in that case, that zone defense was able to generate that quick turn. The 2 players on the mark, forcing that disc to an empty space. Great pressure from that defense to generate that turn and quickly capitalize for a score. Shirley boys now up by 3. 20 minutes left before we hit soft cap. Still a game to 15 at this point. McFarlane gives the ready signal as Shirley boys prepare to come down again on defense. Great pull, fielded comfortably. Brown and Leishman working together in that handler space for the Hutt Valley boys. Looking to make small gains, retaining possession. We see the Shirley zone again. We've talked about how one of the best ways to work through a zone is to tire out those 2 people or 3 people at the front. Another option, as we just saw, to go over the top. Once the defense is out of position, that's when something like a zone falls down. You can do that by tiring out the players or just targeting space they won't be able to cover. So we're seeing really smart offense from Hutt Valley here. Brown, Leishman, swinging out to Vessels on the far sideline, returning the disc to Leishman, trying to signal to his players he wants options. Great patience that we're seeing from both sides. Vessels far sideline, under pressure from the Shirley boys zone. Brown now searching for a hole in that zone. Forced to reset. Great shot to slowly work the disc up the field. We're seeing Kanasuta with the disc on the near sideline now. Leishman Brown just in bounds. A great thread breaking straight through that zone to Vessels. Working back the other way, trying to get the defense out of position. Finds Kanasuta, who takes to the ground to keep the disc alive. Brown again, chipping away at the Shirley boys zone. Working again with the rest of those handlers, Leishman, Kanasuta, Vessels. Great disc skill here. Maybe they've put some of the more confident throwers on the field specifically to combat this great zone defense that we've seen from Shirley boys. Vessels looking to try and find some space in the back of the zone where there's not a lot of coverage from the Shirley boys. Maybe trying to invite an overhead throw. But it's still clean disc movement that we're seeing from Hutt Valley. Brown now getting a great bit out of the defender. Tries to jump the disc in, not quite in position for it. Trying to do maybe a little bit too much on that reset, giving Shirley boys an opportunity now. Walker for Shirley boys. Utteridge to keep that alive despite the pressure from Brown. Finds McFarlane with a big forehand up the field. Far sideline, big chase. Lawson finds another gear, but not enough to get him under the disc. Kanasuta to initiate the Hutt Valley offense as we see that same zone being set up by the Shirley boys. Great work by Hutt Valley, managing to chip around that zone defense. Still a lot of pressure though. Great defense on Shirley boys, on behalf of Shirley boys, as Walker manages to close down that reset in the red zone. McFarlane, great thrower, trying to find space, not being given much, as the Hutt Valley pressure forces a far shot to the corner where the Shirley boys were not able to cover that distance. Great work by Hutt Valley to regain possession. Brown picking up the disc, bringing it to the front of the end zone. Oh, a call was made. Okay. Leishman. Great work by Hutt Valley, just working that disc. Shirley boys still in that zone. Maybe looking to have transitioned from to a person defense. Great work by Vessels to pull that one down. A lot of space in the back of the zone, not currently being utilized. As the defense closes in, that space starts to become clogged. Those throws become a little bit harder. Leishman looking to shift the mark, finds Kanasuta. Quick offload back to Brown. Vessels with a great cut down that far sideline. A space opens up, threading a needle. Manages to keep the toes in bound for the grab. Patrick Gray with a beautiful score. Great clinical ultimate. Threaded through the defense despite huge pressure from Cooper. Manages to keep that foot in bounds as he reels that disc in. 6-4 now. Only 2 points in it. Anyone's game. Hutt Valley with a great score to come down on defense now against the Shirley boys offense. Some dynamic, explosive ultimate on display here today for the first day of 2 for the New Zealand Secondary Schools Ultimate Championships. Now, our second match, as we are 35 minutes in, between Hutt Valley High School and Shirley Boys High School. The first time in the history of our New Zealand Secondary Schools Ultimate Championships that a team from the South Island has ventured this far north to participate. It's great to see, and it's especially great to see that they are making a show-stopping entrance, working together incredibly well. Great vision on defense, great positioning, tactical movement on offense to work around the Hutt Valley defense. Vessel's giving the signal that he's ready to pull. Waiting for the response from the Shirley boys. Sees it, sends a disc. A little bit of edge is going to carry it out of bounds. And rather than bricking the disc or taking it from the brick mark, he'll take it from where the disc crossed the boundaries of the fields, maybe giving them a little bit of a better opportunity. The disc will come in on the sideline, the far sideline, at about the halfway mark. A nice high shot over the top. Great pressure from Hutt Valley. Tips the disc. Vale goes to ground to try and get a second to bite at the apple, but it's not quite enough. Vessel's in his own home corner, trying to shift the mark, having to reset. Finding Leishman and Vessels again. A nice rip. Long game. Early bid by the defense. Utteridge stopping Nagarajan from getting that one and putting the score on the board. Moore getting high and getting involved. An off pivot, backhand from the ground to work around the Hutt Valley defense. Utteridge again, trying to find an option, waiting for something to develop downfield. Vale finds it. Continuous disc movement, manages to get that pass through for a beautiful score for Shirley boys. We'll see that again. Nice swing to the far sideline. Vale hitting Douglas as he manages to put that back foot inbounds as his first point of contact for a great score. 7-4 now. Shirley boys 1 point away from taking halftime. 11 minutes remain until soft cap. For now, still a race to 15. Hutt Valley High to come down on offense again. We know they've got the defensive pressure. We know they've got the athleticism, the crispness of throws, and the crispness of throws. They can make those gains up the field. They can close out points. We've seen them do it so far. But it looks like they may need a stronger answer to the zone defense that we've seen from the Shirley boys. And we've seen Hutt Valley use a few of their handlers incredibly well. Some of Leishman, Vessels, Kanasuta. Three very, very strong, confident disc handlers who were able to just work with each other to move around that zone. Kanasuta fields. Finds Leishman. Threading one through. Patrick Gray with a big rip. Huge chase. Just outside the reach of layouts. Taylor with a fantastic chase down on that disc. A great territorial play. Shirley boys now with a long field. The full field to work down before they can score on their own. We know they've got throws that can reach that distance. Working around quick offloads from Lawson back to Cooper. Just using great movement, great cuts. Quicker resets, a nice rip down the near sideline. A little bit on the low side. Lawson with a great chase down there. Looking to get involved, making those early in cuts towards the disc, catching the disc, immediately passing back to one of those handlers and working out of space, trying to keep the defense on the back foot. Leishman to initiate the offense for Hutt Valley. Looks like Gray may have tripped. And a foul has been called, so possible player interference. which interfered with his ability to make that catch. So Gray will retain possession. Gray on the near sideline. Trying to shift the mark. A little bit on the high side. Great work by Shirley boys. Bradley Moore with that score. Once again, huge defensive bid by Varley to get possession back for Shirley boys. Great patience, not trying to force anything, recognizing he has time. Great cut by Moore to open up that space. As we go to halftime, 8-4, Shirley boys up over Hutt Valley High School. We'll be back with you shortly for the second half of this game. Hutt Valley High School first to break after half-time. Their preparations, psychological, physical, emotional, not taking as long as for Shirley boys. 4 points, not an insurmountable obstacle to overcome. But the margin is getting wider because Shirley boys are pouring on huge amounts of pressure on both offense and defense. And while there is a significant advantage to taking half, the energy that it gives you as a player, the knowledge that you are ahead is undeniable. It's important not to rest on your laurels. We're seeing some great athletics and great field vision out on the field at the moment. But it's important to recognize that mistakes can creep in the second half of a game, perhaps more easily than they can in the first half as players begin to tire. Small errors start to add up. While we haven't seen many yet from either side in this game, they could very well be creeping in this second half. Now, we're going to see Shirley boys come out on offense. Even though they scored the last point, the sort of initiation or initial possession swaps after half. So Shirley boys coming down on defense in the first half means they open the second half on offense. Nice pull from Hutt Valley. Goes high, fielded well. Several quick passes before the Hutt Valley defense finds position. McFarlane pressured by the mark. Doesn't have many options as all of those great cuts from Shirley boys are being covered well by Hutt Valley. That's what we like to see. Great pressure from Hutt Valley. Young Kubra putting body on the line to generate that turn. Leishman, Vessels working together in that same. Kubra again with a great undercut. Looking to wind up a big forehand. But McFarlane puts his body in the way. So a call was made. Just quickly stopping play to make sure that everything is fine. The player looked to have been knocked over. But it seems to have been resolved without any conflict. We're seeing here a horizontal stack instead of the vertical stack that we saw before. McFarlane puts one up to Cooper. Makes a quick shot. Beautiful disc all the way through to Charlie Utteridge for the score. A huge grab and a laser beam to the end zone for the score. As Shirley Boys High School take the first point out of half. 2.5 minutes left on the clock. And so when that 2.5 minutes runs out, we will hear a hooter, at which point the current play needs to be concluded. One will be added to the highest score. And then the teams are simply racing to that number. So if in the next 2 minutes there's no score made, then this point needs to be concluded, which will make the score either 5-9 or 10-4. We would add one to the highest score, and teams will race to that number. Utteridge with a high pull, a lot of edge. Fielded well by Vessels. Works to Kanasuta on the near sideline. We're seeing that same zone threading between the mark for Leishman. Vessels and Kanasuta working in a triangle, just trying to get around that defense. Just working the disc backwards and forwards, making short, clean cuts to space to try and move them out of position. Leishman, center field. And as the defense closes down on that, finds Kanasuta near sideline, keeps working the disc back, shifting that defense out of position, trying to gain yards or meterage 1-2 at a time. Slow and steady, wins the race. Threads through, finds Leishman, who winds up beforehand, holsters it, reevaluates, tries to work around the zone instead of through it. Finds Vessels. Kanasuta. Great cut by Gray, but it's pressured off by the middle players in the zone. Leishman, Vessel. Kanasuta cutting across the zone, trying to break through. Leishman having to move around to clean that up and keep that stall count low. Kanasuta again. Finds a defender out of position who recovers as the throw goes up, managing to generate a turn. A great layout grab as we hit that soft cap. So the conclusion of this point will determine the score that we are racing to. Lawson with a great grab. Finds Charlie Utteridge right on the corner of the zone. Looks back, finds Lawson. A nice high forehand. Beautiful score as Walker pulls that one in, taking the game to 10-4. We are in a race to 11. It is not an impossible win for Hutt Valley, but as things currently stand, it looks to be a closer win for Shirley Boys. Now, Shirley Boys need to come down on defense, which means they either need to generate a turn and score, or if they concede the point, they'll be given an opportunity to come down on offense, which takes away some of the work of generating that turn in the first instance. Now, we've seen that zone from the Shirley boys work incredibly well. In the sport of Ultimate, when a player is on the mark, player is marking the person holding the disc, they establish a stall count. Essentially similar to a shot clock in basketball. A player has 10 seconds as counted by their opposition to release the disc, or it results in an automatic turnover. And so when we've seen the Hutt Valley boys in particular use those handlers, Leishman, Kanasuta, Vessel, they're having to move that disc around between themselves to prevent that stall count reaching 10 and giving Shirley boys an instant opportunity to capitalize. So moving that disc back between themselves, it's an important part of the strategic element of the sport of Ultimate. Vale with a beautiful pull, high, fielded very well. Leishman finds a great cut from Brown. Quick gain, 5 meters. Leishman to Leishman. Straight through that zone to find Brown. Moving that Shirley boy zone, hoping to keep working up the field. Brown in the red zone, maybe 10 meters away from a score. Leishman swinging back out the other side. Not afraid to work backwards. Brown and Leishman. We can see players finding space in the back of the zone. A hammer goes up, but with the wind, a great look. Unfavorable conditions for an option like that, but still the crowd loves to see a hammer. And when you have a player unmarked in a zone, standing in perfect position, it's really, really hard not to just fire those off. Shirley boys have a great opportunity to close out the game for themselves now. We're seeing McFarlane on the far sideline. Perhaps a little greedy. Leishman now for Hutt Valley with a great opportunity, working with Brown. Finding Taylor, who works to Vessel on the far sideline. Leishman now very close. Finding Taylor again. There's an opportunity to thread past the zone there, maybe not confident of getting the disc there. Brown now working with Leishman. A well-threaded pass as Vessel pulls that one down despite huge amounts of pressure from the Shirley boys. Great read, getting underneath it. The game is now 10-5. We'll see that again. A nice forehand, clean. McFarlane looked to be underneath it, looked to be pressuring it, but Vessel still able to pull that one down. Shirley boys to come out on offense for what could be the last point of the game. The first team to hit 11 points will be declared our winner in this, the second match of our coverage of the New Zealand Secondary Schools Ultimate Championships. Patrick Gray to pull as Hutt Valley come down on defense. Magarajan, Taylor. High pull, a lot of time for the defense to get into position. Great pressure getting in the way of that second pass. The first pass comes off clean, but pressure getting in the way. Great opportunity here for Hutt Valley to close out. Leishman and Taylor working that disc, hoping to chip away around the Shirley boys' defense. Taylor signaling, wanting movement to allow him to finish. What a score! Nagarajan, despite 2 attempts at a defensive bid. We'll get to see that again. A great laser of a forehand. 2 taps. And Nagarajan goes to ground to keep that one alive. Cooler heads prevail. Despite huge pressure from that defense, it's not quite enough to seal out the Hutt Valley boys. We are still in a game to 11, but Hutt Valley have shown they have the legs, the determination, the fire inside themselves to close that margin. This is what Ultimate is all about. Those exciting moments that swing the momentum in favor of one team or another. They can come at any time. Taylor, Kanasuta, Nagarajan. Brown, Kubra to take defensive position. Great high pull, but a little bit much edge is going to carry it out of the fields. Audibly into the pavilion, where we're bringing you coverage of this game between Shirley boys and Hutt Valley. Lawson to initiate the offense. He'll be taking this to the brick mark. A beautiful long shot, uncontested, but a lot of fade to the outside. McFarlane, 2 hands for security, makes that catch. Beautiful way to finish that game. Great explosive cut into space, sending the disc up. One and done. Just patience. Walks it into his hands. A beautiful way for the Shirley boys to finish their first covered match in New Zealand Secondary Schools Ultimate Championships history. Absolutely fantastic performance by both teams. Great defensive pressure from the Shirley boys, looking to have sealed that one for them. Very, very clever zone offense from Hutt Valley as they tried to work around that zone. Despite that patience, that skill with the disc, it was not enough to get them the victory. Congratulations to both teams as they form a spirit circle and discuss the game. Well done to these young gentlemen for putting on such a fantastic show for us here at Crown Park in Taupo and those of you watching at home. My name is Blair Monroe. This is the New Zealand Secondary Schools Ultimate Championships, and we will be back with you shortly.